So what you're saying is that you're sending and he's fighting against. That's not a fight anymore. That's a massacre. Well, what if they were all The Rock? The fight would be close. But would that be enough? I don't think so. One gorilla versus 100 men has become an overly serious argument in less than a day. I go to sleep after finishing finals week and I'm waking up to see two sides fighting for their lives to prove how they absolutely just washed the other side. And it really has people doing the absolute most in order to defend their side. There's literally no reason for you to make an entire game about this. But look, let's be real, you've probably already watched a video talking about how the indomitable human spirit or the power of friendship puts a second Harambe on a t-shirt. But I'm here to tell you why this fight is much, much closer than you think it is. Gorillas are the largest living primates, with an adult silverback gorilla standing anywhere from 5'6" to 5'9", while weighing in on average at about 400 pounds. They're essentially what would have happened if humans specialized in strength instead of intelligence. I mean, just look at those arms. They're thicker than the legs of a person. And all that strength comes from an entirely plant-based diet. These shack-sized primates are in fact vegetarians, and they spend their time eating up to 45 pounds of food per day. But those canines aren't only used for eating fruits. When it comes to King Kong conflicts, the two main ways injuries occur are from the sledgehammers they call arms slamming into each other and the puncture wounds that come from a 2-inch long canine coming down on skin with around 1300 psi's worth of force. To help you put that into perspective, that's around the force of a punch from prime Mike Tyson. But let's just also give him sharpened bronze knuckles to concentrate all of that power into a couple of extremely sharp points. You gotta also remember that the force doesn't stop until the gorilla wants it to. That's why many of the results of gorilla on gorilla conflicts end up with visibly bleeding wounds all over their bodies. And you have to realize that a gorilla's skin is much, much thicker than a human skin. Really quickly, before we get into the strengths of 100 people, I've heard some really crazy statements about gorillas that simply aren't true. It's important to note that while gorillas are in fact a lot stronger than a person in general, like a lot of other primates, that strength comes mainly from fast twitch muscles, which allows for their explosive movements that help them survive in the jungle. And it does actually help them in their fights. But it has little to no benefits in endurance activities like lifting heavy weights, so when you hear facts like gorillas being able to carry 10 times their body weight, you should take it with a grain of salt. Especially because the heaviest gorilla lift we have on record is 1800 pounds from the Guinness World Records. So no, Curious George's big brother is not easily lifting up 4,000 pounds and tearing people in half left and right, even if they can exert a ridiculous amount of force in a fight. I've done all this yapping about the gorilla, so now we have to get to the guys. I don't think a lot of people realize that 100 people is a lot of people. Like, a whole lot of people. And just like in the wild, sometimes quantity is its own quality. Just look at how orcas make super pods in order to hunt the usually untouchable blue whale, or how a troop of baboons can go from a leopard's happy meal to jumping a feline way above their weight class. So numbers can more than make up for the fact that physically, there's not a lot of damage a person can actually do to a silverback, since gorillas come with naturally higher defense because of their tougher skin and extremely thick bones. And getting close enough to bite the gorilla before your skull gets to cosplay as a pancake isn't really realistic either. So every person's main goal should be either going after the weak points all mammals share, which is their throat, eyes, mouth, and family jewels, or try to hold down the silverback to make it easier for others to get to those critical areas. Like I said before, 100 people is a lot of people, and since gorillas aren't giant 20-foot apes, they're basically human-sized. Effectively, only around 10 to 15 guys would actually be able to really fight the silverback, while the others just kind of have to wait. Now, if this was in real life, getting a gorilla to actually commit to a fight like this wouldn't be possible, because gorillas are generally gentle giants, and 100 of any animal can be intimidating. They live by a code of conduct, and it's only when a person crosses one of those lines that they find themselves on the wrong side of guerrilla warfare. It's why there's never been a recorded fatality between gorillas and humans, either in captivity or in the wild. But to be fair, this entire argument is unrealistic. So what if a silverback decided that the only way to survive was to get through all 100 guys? This fight really comes down to if the gorilla has the stamina to run the gauntlet against the 100 people, while avoiding any severe damage to its few weak points. Starting with the first 10 to 20 guys, the outcome would be bad. None of those people are going to make it to a hospital. And if the group was made of normal human beings, the mental damage of watching the first guys to reach the gorilla getting obliterated left and right would probably end that fight right then and there. Unfortunately for both sides, the original question said that the guys are dedicated to the fight. So if we assume that they don't value their lives, then this fight gets insanely close. Before we go any further, let me just come out and say it. I'm a gorilla defender. Just hear me out. I personally believe that the silverback has slightly higher odds of winning. Because don't get me wrong, good enough injuries to gorilla's balls down the halls or fully losing its vision basically ends the fight. Injuries to your crown jewels will basically make you bleed out. That's why hyenas go after them all the time. And I hope I don't have to explain to you why losing your eyes makes you a bad fighter. I just don't think the guys will be able to hit any of those targets. The gorilla's not just going to be standing still while the fight is happening. It's going to be moving, flailing, and biting whenever it gets a chance. With all of those attacks being painful at the very least and lethal at the worst. Also, since gorillas don't have a fighting form, they would end up fighting pretty similarly to how they fight in the wild, which is good for the gorilla. Now let's talk about the three main arguments I've heard for the guys. Exhibit A. Movies have really messed up people's expectations for how big gorillas are. Like I said before, Not So Curious George is human-sized, and while they might be a bit bigger than your average guy, they're still in the same ballpark. So all that talk about having 10 people on the legs, 20 people on the body, and 5 on each arm physically isn't going to work. Exhibit B. You guys have been talking about the indomitable human spirit, but the DNA of gorillas is anywhere from 96 to 99% identical to humans. They also both have adrenaline. So really we should be talking about the indomitable gorilla spirit at this point. Exhibit C. We tired the gorilla out. Before we even start this one, I blame you guys. Did I want to spend my weekend reading research articles on the heart's evolution between humans, chimpanzees, and the greatest ape? No. But here I am learning about ventricular volume and prominent apical trabeculations?
What?
Dog. An internet argument should never be this deep. But anyways, outside of going for the silverback's weak spots, this is the only other valid strategy I've heard of. But from what I've learned, all gorillas and actually every other primate isn't really built for endurance. They're still able to do it to a point since they can still sweat. And in a life or death situation, that gorilla is going to use everything it has. But at this point, the fight gets so close that we can really agree to disagree. Because while the odds are in favor of the ape, it's not by a lot. If the eyes go out or if the guys run a good enough strategy to run down that shot clock, and Harambe gets a new friend. Now that we've discussed how many men it takes to fight a gorilla, let's talk about how many men it takes to save one. Because gorillas have been in another fight with humans for years, and they're losing badly. Both the eastern and western species of gorilla are critically endangered. Like I talked about before, gorillas are gentle giants, which is why we're able to get so close to them in the wild. Yet they suffer terribly from habitat loss and poaching. While it's fun and all to argue about random situations, it's also important to take a look around. Because without the conservation effort made by several national parks, we might not even have been able to have this conversation. I saw that Casual Geographic, and yes, if you stuck around to the end, I do know our videos overlap a lot. I guess great minds think alike. But yeah, I know he talked about Virunga National Park, but there's also another national park in Buwindi, Uganda. It's called the Buwindi Impenetrable National Park. It has the largest group of mountain gorillas in the world. And since I'm hoping this video gets out there, I'll let you guys know that they have a donation page in order to support their conservation efforts as well. They explain where exactly a lot of that money goes, and if you got your money up, I'm just saying, $1 could be fire. If you're still watching all the way to this point, I mean, might as well subscribe and definitely tune in. I have a lot more ideas, and I'm just gonna keep getting better with the editing. So just let me cook and let me cook. We're out.